Good evening again, and thanks so much for joining us. And you're welcome to engage us on the debate. 011-542-2186. We're also on social media, talking about the response to crime by Police Minister Fikile Mbalula, otherwise also known as Razzmatazz. Police Minister Fikile Mbalula has declared war on criminals. He was speaking at the relaunch of the tactical response team, and the minister assumed a no-nonsense approach to crime. Mbalula says the most wanted must be the most hunted, and the South African Police Service says that the retrained and refocused team is better equipped to deal with the new threats posed by violent criminals. The finest, the bravest, the highly skilled police will join the elite unit, and the unit will conduct high-value target operations. They will resort under the command of the clusters and stations. The TRT will deal with medium to high-risk policing operations. I beg your pardon. And the tracking teams will focus on evasive, dangerous criminals.
It's not an issue. The question is, this force must be able to respond accordingly to the dangerous criminals, and they must know that we have arrived and we're coming for them. And this is what we have said, and we said we'll smoke them out of their holes, and this is what we're going to do. And either within or outside, and that is what we're going to do. We have retrained about 200 or so of this TRT unit, and the numbers are going to increase. For Gauteng specifically, more than 500. And they're going to be deployed in strategic areas where we've got crime-infested areas. And TRT members who are going to be deployed in Gauteng, I don't want to see you only in taverns. Actually, I want to see you everywhere, where criminals think that they are in charge. I want to see you in the highways. I want to see you wherever criminals congest and come together. We must unsettle them. We must squeeze them. If they've got balls, we must crush them.
Mbalula has suggested some drastic measures to curb crime, and the question is, can the revamped unit reduce the level of crime, and is the minister not encouraging police brutality? As mentioned, 011-542-2186. What do you make of the latest stance by Police Minister Fikile Mbalula reintroducing the tactical response team? Joining us in studio, Richard Mamabolo, Pop Crew spokesperson, and Dr. Johan Berger, a senior researcher for Crime and Justice Program at the Institute for Security Services. Good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Does this sound more like something you've heard before in terms of what various ministers have tried to do to curb crime?
Yeah, well, it's not something that is new, but it depended on how it was implemented in the past. And of course, there have been a number of observations that have been made by, well, society, and of course, some from different ranks. What we think, we actually welcome this initiative because the TRT has been displaced for a very long time, where their actual tasks which they were trained for were not being performed. And of course, we have seen that since then there has been a rise in the crime rate, especially the kind of crimes that we've seen are not they have not been good for our country. So we believe that the reintroduction will of course curb crime.
All right, we're also joined on the line by Vuyo Mhanga, Police Ministry spokesperson. Vuyo, thanks so much for your time. What exactly does it mean, or does the minister mean when he says that the new elite police service has been revamped?
Basically, South Africans have been complaining about these types of crimes, and they've been quite stubborn, in particular in Gauteng. That's why a majority of those TRT members will actually be focused in Gauteng. But what is actually of an addition on top of that is what we'll call the tracing team. The tracing team will be people who wake up every day, look for the most dangerous criminal in South Africa, and inform the TRT team that we have found them, that's where they are. The TRT team comes in, exhume them, and basically bring them to the law.
But we know the TRT existed previously, so why was there a need to revamp this unit?
Well, they went through a refresher course. We have increased their capacity. we increase their resources that they need to execute the work. So they are quite ready, trained, slim, nothing, basically quite focused.
And how was this relaunched unit better equipped at tackling crime?
No. I think what the minister was saying, if we have to put it into context, is that there have been people that have been brutalizing society. And we don't have a relationship to be soft criminals. We must be able to apprehend them and basically bring them to book. But if there's a question, that criminals are endangering the lives of South Africans, are endangering the lives of police, the police have got the responsibility to respond to defend innocent lives within the boundaries of the law.
Welcome back to you. Just stay with us. Thabo in Germiston, good evening to you. Thanks for calling.
Good evening, Cindy, and good evening to your viewers. I think, Cindy, what the minister is trying to do, I think it's a perfect solution for this country. We cannot live in fear in our areas because of the criminals. I think if we really say is the minister and not encouraging police brutality, let it be, because that's how the criminals are to us as ordinary South Africans. Thanks, Cindy.
All right, Thabo, thanks very much. Dr. Burger, thanks. Good evening to you and thanks for joining us. But giving the police or this specialized unit carte blanche, almost powers to break the law, wouldn't this create a militant police state in your view?
Yeah, well, I'm also cautiously welcoming the idea of deploying these units, but then they should be properly utilized for the purpose they were created in the first instance, and that is to deal with the most dangerous of our criminals, those who are armed with submachine guns or firearms, generally speaking, and who are absolutely capable and willing to use them against their victims. So the fact that they are being deployed, in my view, in support of the tracking teams, I think is the correct way of deploying them. So one should not, and I'm hoping that they are not overly relied on in terms of bringing down our very serious.
Dr. Burger? All right, we'll try and get him back. Is there, Mr. Mbalula, is there sufficient evidence that the previous task team was effective in dealing with the issue of crime?
Look, it was effective, and of course it also had its negatives where people would complain about police brutality. But I think since then there has been a commitment to ensure that we fight against all forms of police brutality, be it police brutality or brutality against police, because even police have been brutalized. But I think one of the unique features about this TRT, the new one, is what Vuyo spoke about earlier, which is the tracing team. We think it will actually make it more proactive rather than being reactive to conditions. And where you have a proactive policing unit, we are bound to obviously prevent certain crimes from taking place. That is what we need to focus on in light of what has been happening for the past 2-3 years in the country.
All right, but as Dr. Burger says, cautiously optimistic about this particular intervention. France, you're calling us from Pretoria. Good evening to you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's your comment or question?
Hello, CC, how are you?
I'm very well. Go ahead, France, we're listening.
Yeah, sister, there's a problem with policing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problem in policing. They don't work. They are there to get paid, that's all. That's the first thing. The thing is, there are a lot of criminals which they know, and they work with them. And each and every corner you find the police a car or a police, and you have been robbed. I've been robbed twice in Joburg. Then when I ran to the police, they say, the first question they ask, where is that? Give me ID. I said, I've been robbed. And you asked me for ID. What is that? Instead of helping me, they didn't help me. Then I said, okay, fuck you. Then I went out. So there's no policing system. The government is not dealing with helping the poorest people, the helpless people. That's why people they're trying for themselves to kill the criminals. It's not because they don't want to report their problems, but because there's no police system.
Yeah, Franz, thanks so much for your call. And Mr. Mbalula, how do you, as a police union, then create a more healthier relationship between citizens and the police, because there's already seemingly a distrust or a level of antagonism?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that a majority of our police officers remain committed to serving the people of South Africa, and that's what they do. Of course, there'll be those small elements which would portray police in a bad light, but of course, as a union, we have been engaging with communities, and we continue to do that to ensure that the relation between police and communities are established. That happens through our meetings throughout the country when our structures do meet. And we think that it's important to really say that policing is not only a police issue, it's a community issue. Wherever we have seen good relations between communities and police, the trends show that crime is decreasing indeed.
Okay, we go back now to Vuyo Mhanga, Police Ministry spokesperson. Vuyo, Amaberete has been infamous for brutality and hard-handedness, and the minister seems to see no issue with that. What is your view?
No. What basically the minister is saying is that you must unsettle criminals. You can't have criminals who rob people, go to on a Sunday on a Chisanyama, have a braai, and they see nothing wrong with that. So we need those, that TRT unit, to go and find them even in the area of happiness. When they are happy, just unsettle them. You need to make sure that they are encircled. They must know that they've nowhere to hide. They can't just do as they please in South Africa, brutalizing our people, and there's absolutely no response from the police. The police must be able to go there and really ask, hard questions. But if you've got so much amount of money, can you explain it? You need to find a way where, criminals don't really feel that they're in holiday in South Africa. They must be treated like criminals.
All right, we have another caller, Anonymous. Good evening to you and thanks for calling. What's your comment or question?
My comment is that we've got a tactical team which has been there, which has been trained, and there's nothing which we see on the training side. Training is the most important thing before you let a person to go out. When a person is trained properly, you even see their conduct on the ground. If a person is not trained properly, you will see that this person is not trained.
All right, thanks so much, Anonymous. And the minister touched on that this team will be more resourced, well-skilled and retrained. But the question is, there's been a similar one. Were those people then absorbed in the system under the Bigicele tenure?
Look, yeah, that is what I said earlier on, that they had been displaced to different units where and doing tasks which they were not supposed to be doing. They are not trained for. And of course, I think training goes with time. The training methods that were used back then cannot be similar to what is currently happening now, because conditions change, of course. And of course, even criminality evolves with time. So the training would be different from then. And of course, we expect that the kind of training that is being offered currently would be sufficient enough to ensure that all these objectives are achieved. The curbing of crime and ensuring that criminality in its totality goes down.
And Dr. Berger, just the significance or the impact of corruption in the police ministry and those rogue police units, the minister saying that they will uproot them as bad apples and bad potatoes, but the human element always creeps in, where somebody might be lured based on whatever offer is on the table. How then is this best managed?
Well, Cindy, I think you are looking at two things here. The one is the tactical response teams that I think, if correctly deployed in support of the tracking teams, who should be looking at finding these most wanted criminals who are dangerous and well armed and prepared, to fight it out with the police. You need these kinds of specialized operational teams to carry out those arrests. So hopefully this is how they will be deployed. In terms of the corruption issue, the police have, towards the end of last year and especially at the beginning of this year, implemented a new unit within the police service that will be dealing with integrity issues that includes corruption. And hopefully between them and the Independent Police Investigative Directorate will deal with the corruption issues. But I think that is one of the biggest challenges in the police that derails policing from from the top to the bottom, and so I agree with the minister. While at the operational level you need to tighten up your efforts to arrest these heavily armed and very, very dangerous criminals, but at the same time you have to look at improving the integrity of the police service and to root out corruption. We haven't seen an increase yet in the number of arrests of police officers for corruption, but hopefully once this unit starts functioning properly, we would see that kind of improvement.
Please stay on the line, Dr. Berger. We have Anonymous joining us. Good evening to you and thanks for calling.
Hi, good evening, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Cindy, the efforts put by Mr. Mbalula, they are noticeable. But my input on this here is that, okay, he must also, when he does all of these things, he must focus more on the police themselves. Because most of the police here, they are, not most of, but there are some criminal elements within the police force that, at the end of the day, give us a perception as a public to say the police are corrupt. Can I just explain what happened to me once?
Very briefly, please.
Yes. I was hijacked. My car was hijacked once. I ran into the police station, one of the specific police stations. When I get there, I found the police sitting down having lunch and everything that day. And I told them, okay, the trading company that tracked my car location, they know where it is. Can we urgently go there now? These people, they finished their lunch, and then after that, they followed me so very slow. I was trying to pull, but now they were going so slow. And then I can see the other policeman inside the car he has been in the phone right from the beginning until where I get the location where the car was lost.
Yeah, but did you report it with iPad? Sorry to break your word, but you know, so that kind of behavioral activities in the sense that it doesn't encourage confidence in members of society must be reported. Anonymous, we're going to have to let you go. Tobelane and KZN, good evening to you.
Evening, Miss, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm okay. Do you mind if I speak Zulu?
No, Baba.
Oh, yeah, ma. I once was a police officer. You see the problem with the police. First thing that leads to the police committing crime, Kuba Esarali. Hello?
Yeah, okay, so imali ncane. Yenzela ukuthi yeah,
exactly. Those people who are working in the ground, baholi Sarali ncane.
Mawuthi ncane baba kuba imalini?
Basically, maybe it's about 5,000 before deductions. So what is happening? Those people, the unions, amapoisa, I was amapoisa ukuthi we negotiate a loan. Then they will end up committing crime bethathe bribe kubantu so that they can live.
All right, sizathu babo mama bolo aphendule lapho ukuthi imali izokhushulwa nini.
Another point enzima kakhulu ngiyeza uminister ukhulumile uMbalula about ukuthi uzowanika ibackup amapoisa if they break the law. The problem enkulu, let me say, in open entry house, niyeza ukuthi kunesibhamu lapho. If umuntu nimbuza ukuthi siphi isibhamu ethakasazi, once namshalo umuntu seniyaboshwa automatically. Uzobe ngasekho ufuna court wena.
All right, sizezwa ku-union ke baba Thobelane sibonge kakhulu. Thanks so much for your call. We go back to Mr. Manga. He is the spokesperson for the police ministry. Just finally, is the minister not encouraging police brutality through his comments? For example, saying that break the law progressively and let me worry about the court cases, as we heard from Tobelane in KZN.
No. Their mandate is quite clear. As I've said, that they went through a refresher course. So it's quite clear what they need to do within the boundaries of the law. But what is important that they must unsettle criminals. Criminals must not feel that they are happy. So the message from the minister to the TRT unit: do whatever that you can do within the parameters of the law to make sure that criminals don't have a holiday in South Africa.
All right, we just briefly, Dr. Berger, from some of our callers, in particular, a former policeman saying that the allure of bribery is always consistent because people don't earn enough. And we'll get a response from the police union as well. In your view, what is adequate? Or maybe we can benchmark it on international practices on the payment of police officers.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it was proven in research over the years that the salary isn't a big problem. It is about the integrity of the individual police officers. So, you know, if you are a person of integrity, you should not fall for the lure of money or any kind of bribe to do things that you should not be doing. So I would hate to set a standard for salary. If your salary isn't enough, then you should find yourself another job. But integrity is the issue here. If you are a person who lacks integrity, it wouldn't matter whatever you are paid, you would still be falling for the attempt.
Yeah. So you're saying that the recruitment process in itself needs to be more rigorous and to almost sift out the bad apples from the get-go before they get into the system.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I think this is essentially what you're looking for. There are a number of requirements to become a police officer. But the one thing that I think the police are not always properly checking is the level of integrity of those individuals that they consider for employment in the police service. And I think this is why it's so important that once a police officer breaks his code of conduct, then there should be serious repercussions, which could include ending his career at a very, very early age before it becomes more serious.
Dr. Burger, let me get a response from the union, firstly trying to justify a rogue police behavior on salary. What do you say to your members in
I think
jobs?
both salaries and of course integrity, they are both important. And of course, when you look at the backgrounds of most of the police officers, you find that they come from poor backgrounds, have got extended families. So there are many challenges that we've obviously been discussing with the SAPS to resolve. So it cannot be that because salaries are low, then therefore they should be left out and discuss the issue of integrity alone. They are both quite important, and of course that is one issue which myself and Vuyo would find ourselves on different opposites. We are obviously engaging. We would want them to have improved salaries. We would want them to live a better life, you know.
So are you justifying corruption in police based on the fact that there's so much pressure on their salaries, and by extension that makes it okay if they accept a bribe here and there?
We are not justifying any corruption. In fact, we are against corruption. We are against police actually being part of corruption. We have never promoted corruption. What we're saying is that as much as police do their work, they need to be considered that their lives as well go on, you know. Majority, if you remember, there have been studies that show that there is post-traumatic stress disorder that is growing amongst many young police officers. And part of the reasons are because of the economic challenges at home.
All right, Dr. Burger, just very briefly on your view, initially you said you're very cautiously optimistic about this particular unit, but if all checks and balances are done, this is probably one of the best interventions and a legacy for the Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula.
Yes, I think so. You know, this is well controlled to prevent that the tactical response teams from being abused as was the case before. I think the idea is good. You have tracking teams which should be searching for those most wanted criminals because they are responsible for most of our serious and violent crimes. But you need a proper protection for these teams. And this is what I think the tactical response teams should be providing, and that would be reassuring for these tracking teams. That would certainly encourage them to do their jobs and search for these criminals with much more vigor.
All right, Dr. Johan Burger, thank you so much for your time, the Senior Researcher at Crime and Justice Program for the Institute of Security Studies. Very briefly, Mr. Mbalula, one of the callers are saying not only is it the issue about training, which is very critical, and secondly, the fact that the union does not seem to be dealing with the grievances of police members.
We are dealing with grievances, and in fact, you can, obviously, you would know, we've got a bargaining council, SSBC, where we obviously discuss all aspects that have to do with police, training, methods, everything. So we are in fact, at par with the issues around the challenges of police, and we will obviously also always be there.
All right. Thanks indeed for your time, Richard Mbalula, Pop Crew spokesperson. And we also had Vuyo Mhanga, the spokesperson for the Police Ministry. And thanks for calling in as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll see you on the other side.